What's going on, guys? It's Brendan from Modern to Me, and today we are learning about abstract classes. So an abstract class is a class that is always a superclass or a parent class. An abstract class is always going to have subclasses. When you have an abstract class, you can't have an instance of that class. So I'm just kind of like dumping all these facts on you, like what? No, let me just kind of demonstrate it. So I'm going to go back to this weapon sort example that we've been working on, and I'm going to build off that. So as you can see here, I typed in this abstract keyword. So when you type this abstract keyword, you're defining an abstract class. So that's all there is to it. You just got to type this keyword. And now an abstract class, what makes it abstract is its abstract methods. So let's just make an abstract method right now. So I'm going to add on to this class, and I'm going to kind of add like a description method. I'm going to have a method that describes each weapon. Now, when I have here, let me just make this method. So public, and I'll just call it description, and it's not going to need any parameters or anything. And I'm missing a return type, public void description. Okay, so now if I want to make this body of this description method, what do you think I'd put in this body? Well, I'm defining it for the weapon class, but the weapon class, just think of it this way, the weapon class is an abstract concept. It's just a weapon. You don't like that's kind of vague. You're not really creating a specific object if you want to create a weapon class. So it doesn't really make sense even to make an instance of the weapon class or even describe the weapon, because right now describing the weapon is pointless because there's absolutely no description to be had, because it's just an abstract concept. It's just kind of a vague overview of like a sword or another potential weapon. So what you do is we'd make this method abstract. So you type the same abstract keyword, and that is what you do. You never actually define abstract methods. You only give like the overview of the method. You type the method, you give like the outline, you have the accessor method, you always have to type abstract, the return type, the name, parameters, but then you don't define it. You just have this semicolon here. Once you have one abstract method in an abstract class, once you have an abstract method in a class, I should say, that instantly makes the class abstract. So if I didn't have this abstract method or keyword there, you get some errors you see. Once you have an abstract method, the whole class has to be abstract. So if you want to have one abstract method in your class, you have to make the whole class abstract, and at that point you cannot create any instances of that class. So now that I've created this weapon class, I have only one abstract method. I can't create any instances. And oh, by the way, you don't have to have every single method be abstract in an abstract class. As you can see, I'm only going to have one abstract method in this weapon class, but already that's all it took for that class to become abstract. So now you'll see if I try to create an instance of the weapon class right here, you'll see that I'm going to end up getting an error. If I just type some stuff real quick just to get some stuff going on, you'll see I'm getting an error, and the error you're going to get is cannot instantiate the type weapon. So that's what's going to happen. You're not going to be allowed to make any instances of abstract classes. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So why would you create one of these abstract classes? Well, if you think about it, if you were creating a game and you had a weapon subclass or weapon superclass with all of these subclasses, you have sword and bow and arrow and like magical staff subclasses of this weapon. Why would you ever need to create a weapon class? It doesn't make any sense. You're never going to have that vague of an object in your game. You're always going to have specific weapons. So in that case, you know you're going to have some more methods, because obviously this weapon class is not all inclusive. If we were actually making a game, we'd have more instance variables and more methods in here, but you know you're not going to have very specific definitions of these methods. You're not going to have much to say yet because you don't know what kind of weapons you're creating. Well, that's why we made like this description abstract, because we want to have these methods laid out and ready to use and ready to be defined, but we don't actually define them yet. So now we have this public class sword. We're ready to go, and you're seeing that we get an error. We didn't change anything in the sword class, but we have an error already. Well, let's see what it says. It says the type sword must implement the inherited abstract method weapon.description. What this is saying is it's saying that we didn't define this abstract method. what's going on is if you have an abstract class, you're always going to be inheriting from it, right? Because you can't actually create an instance of that abstract class, so the only use of it is to create subclasses of that class. So your odds are we're going to have many subclasses of weapon, and in these subclasses, what you have to do is you have to define every single method that you declared abstract. So what it's saying is it's saying, hey, I don't see that definition for that description class that you declared abstract, and it's right, we don't have that method yet, so we have to type that out. So we have to add in that description method. So just remember it was public void description with no parameters. And now that error goes away, because once we at least start the method definition, we are getting rid of that error because it thinks we're defining that method, which we are. So for our description, let's say, actually, I don't know why I'm making that void. We should have it return a string. That makes the most sense. What we'll do is we will have it return the description. So I need to change that in here. Okay, so now, oh, is that not going to go away? Public. Oh, no, that's right. Okay, we just had to save. Nothing tricky there. Now we're ready to go. So we've defined our abstract method. So now we've utilized the concept of an abstract class. So it kind of looks like, it almost sounds useless, right? Because if we just added a description without going to all this abstract crap, it kind of sounds all unnecessary, doesn't it? Well, actually, it really is quite useful. If you think about it, you're making your code cleaner. Your code's it makes more sense because it makes sense now that we can't define a weapon type, which is really the way it should be. We shouldn't be able to define a type of weapon because we're never going to need to use that. And now that every time we create a subclass, we're going to be reminded that we need a description method. It's going to remind us that we have to re-implement that, otherwise our program's not going to make sense. So let's actually right now, just on the spot, we're going to create a new class of weapon. We're just going to create another weapon to have multiple subclasses going. So it's going to inherit from weapon. What class are we going to create? That's what I need to go here. We can just go bow, because we already have a sword. Might as well go like bow and arrows. And it's going to inherit from weapon. And now this thing that we've just been kind of ignoring makes a lot more sense. So it's saying, which method stubs would you like to create? Inherited abstract methods. So once we click that, now it's going to automatically pop up that description method for us. So let's check that out. You'll see right here it says to do auto-generated method stub, and right now it says we're overriding this public string description. So it automatically puts that in there to remind us that we have to implement this. So right now we can just implement it right off the bat. And what specialties should our bow have? Well, we only have our max damage, so I guess we'll just have it increase max damage by 25%. The bow increases max damage by 25%. We'd do something a little more crazy if we had more time and more instance variables, but since we don't, we'll just go with it. And make sure we'll just define our constructor right off the bat. Go string name int max damage. It's just gonna be the same. Super name and max damage. Oh man, I'm struggling. Okay. And what else are we missing? If we go back into our weapon class, or I guess our sword class would be a better indicator. Calculate damage. Okay. So calculate damage. We are returning, does that return int? I believe it does. You may kind of start to be thinking, well, shouldn't calculate damage be abstract also? Well, yes, but at the same rate, we don't have to redefine calculate damage, because right now in weapon, calculate damage actually serves a functional purpose. It generates that random number for us up to max damage. So we wouldn't want that to be abstract, because we want to actually have some code in this method. And if you want to have some code in there, that method can't be abstract. So we'll just do the same thing as we did in our other return int super dot calculate damage times 1.25, or yeah, 1.25. And if we look, it really is doing the same thing as sword. but instead of 1.5, it's 1.25. At this point, if we're having that be our only functional purpose of these classes is to change max damage, then we should probably have an instance variable of like damage multiplier or something, but you know, we'll just go with it. We're just trying to keep it simple. So now we can just do the same thing. Bow 1 is equal to new bow. We'll just name it my bow, and it'll have a max damage. It's a really strong one, 150, and we'll just check it out real quick. We don't have get name actually, do we? Oh, I think we do. Yep. And yeah, get name is in weapon, so that's still inherited back down to bow. And if we run this, you can see that our total number of weapons went up. The random calculator is still working there. You can see we got 173. The max damage is only 150. So we can see that our new calculate damage method is working because we're seeing that instead of getting up to 150, we're getting numbers a little higher. So that really kind of sums up abstract classes right there. I hope that you guys could wrap your heads around that. Really, if you just think of using abstract classes for abstract ideas. So a weapon is an abstract idea, so you're going to want to use that abstract class. That method description, this description method that we have in weapon right here, this is kind of an abstract idea because there's absolutely nothing we could define quite yet in this weapon class, in this abstract class itself. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to be explaining to you guys in the next tutorial a very functional purpose for these abstract classes. So I'm going to see you guys in that tutorial. Peace out.